In this segment, we want to look at 3 specific passages in the book of Luke. Our first passage is going to be from Luke chapter 1, verse 59 and 60. And then once we're done with that one, we're going to look at Luke chapter 2, verse 21. Both of these verses have to deal with a ritual or a rite that was instituted way back in Genesis. But we're going to look first at the young man John the Baptist. Let's look at Luke chapter 1, verse 59. It says, "And it came to pass on the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child. And they called him Zacharias, after the name of his father. And his mother answered and said, No, he shall be called John." So in those 2 verses, what we find out is that John is going to be circumcised on the 8th day. And this practice goes way back. Now, yes, it is found in what's called the books of Moses, or the law of Moses. But this is a practice that's found actually several hundred years before the law of Moses is given at Mount Sinai. So the second verse we want to look at is over in Luke chapter 2, verse 21. "And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child," meaning on the 8th day, the 8 days had passed, "his name was called Jesus, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb." So what we have is John the Baptist, the forerunner of Jesus, and we have Jesus, Yeshua. Both of these men are, when they're infants, they're being circumcised on the 8th day. The question is, why? Well, you have to go all the way back to the book of Genesis. And what you find in Genesis is God giving a covenant to Abraham. Abraham, and part of his covenant there, is that he has to wear a sign or a token. And that token is that the men who are of Abraham's household, which would be Isaac, and then Jacob, and then Jacob's 12 sons, all the way down into John the Baptist and into Jesus. These men are to be circumcised on the 8th day according to the instructions which are found in Genesis 17, verses 10 through 14. That is the foundation for the circumcising. So when you're reading the Gospel of Luke, you can see that right as we got started, what we saw last week and last time and this time, the law of Moses and the teachings that come all the way back from Genesis all the way up here into Jesus' time frame have an impact on why John the Baptist's parents do what they do, why Joseph and Mary do what they do, and it's all because of what's found in the 5 books of Moses. Now, I know that the gospel is about the good news, but we also should know where the good news comes from. And it's sourced back here in the Torah, these 5 books. So you can go back there into Genesis 17 and you can find out that it is a covenant, and it specifies that it's to be done on the 8th day. And it specifies down in verse 13 that it is an everlasting covenant. So this is what the descendants of Abraham do. To this day, a Jew who is practicing this will do these things and follow this according to this teaching on the 8th day, and receive the circumcision and receive the traditional assignment of their name on that day. It is an interesting thing. And so Jesus is having his parents, and his parents follow the teachings of Moses. And this allows him to be into a house that's very attentive to what Moses teaches and why they do what they do as Jews, which is important for us when we study the gospel.